You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show.
The 70% of people out there listening to the show today are going to need some level of care. It doesn't necessarily mean that 70% are going to end up in a nursing home, but 70% of people will need some assistance out there. The biggest fear is running out of money for the retiree, but what we see is not enough people spend enough of their money.
Cris prides himself in what matters to you. This is the Rite Retirement Show.
Hi there, I am Luann Fulmer. You've tuned into the Rite Retirement Show. So happy to have you with us today. Sharing wisdom with us are two of my favorite people. They are both certified financial planners and financial advisors at WG Financial Group. Cris Wallace, who is president there, and then also Graham Bauer, and he's also an enrolled agent at the firm. And they're here to help you today, to help us see how we can plan smarter, retire stronger, and play more. We want you to live that best life in retirement. If you have any questions, here is our phone number. You may call or text the word visit to 256-937-2010, 256-937-2010, and you will get a complimentary discovery session. And we do want you to stay connected throughout the week. So if there's anything that happens, before our show on the weekend or after our show on the weekend, you can always look for Chris's latest updates on our website or on our Facebook page. Just look for WG Financial Group 256. And then remember, you can catch this show wherever you get any podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even go to WGFinancialGroup.com. And hello to you both, Cris and Graham. So happy to be here with you.
Hey, Luann, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Hey, Luann, is it as beautiful where you are as it is where we are today?
We're having some pretty good weather. Yeah, pretty good weather for winter, right?
I know. It's like early spring without the pollen just yet, so I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Huntsville's supposed to be in the mid-80s, middle of the week, I think.
Oh my
Not mid-80s,
gosh.
mid-70s by the middle of the week. I said that wrong.
Yeah,
that's nice.
This is like the second year in a row we've had kind of a warm February. I always gave February a lot of shade, just being like, it's the worst month. It's so cold. But the past couple of years, it's been great. So I'm loving it.
Is it global warming?
Oh,
I don't know.
Hush your mouth.
My sister said that. I'm like, I don't.
We need to talk to your
nice.
sister.
I know. I think it's just nice weather.
Tell your sister to check the temperatures in January. It just happened. Yeah,
I know. I say we're lucky that we get them because you know what? It's going to get cold again. It probably is. So.
Yeah. By the time this show airs, it will have cooled down.
Yeah.
From the warm temps that we see now. It won't be freezing, but definitely won't be in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh my. Okay, well, we have some exciting stuff here. You guys have a real talk for us today. I'm excited to hear about it.
I do, actually. So I was, on my phone, doom scrolling, as I like to say. And this is a couple nights ago. And this guy that's shown up in my algorithms before starts showing up in my feeds again. And, he's one of these people that are walking through the woods and they're making quote unquote financial content. And, basically, here's what he said. He said, this is, first of all, I can't say his name and I want to so bad, but I can't. But he says, I'm so-and-so. I'm a former portfolio manager and financial advisor, and I make content for free so you don't have to pay for it. And he speaks really, really confidently. Okay. And so this one was on why I'm taking Social Security at 62. And he just, authoritatively speaking and confident sounding and walking through the woods, filming himself, talking about, I've done the math and, the break even is 79 for me. And I've done the math on when I'm going to die. I've looked at the statistical age of death for me and I've done the math. And like I said, it's just speaking really, really confidently. And I watched the whole reel. So probably about 40 seconds of my life I can't get back at this point. So I sat there and I just, he couldn't hear me, but I was like, what about your wife?
Mm-hmm.
What about your wife in this decision? Because I know you're married because I stalked you online. I looked you up. So I know you're married. So what about your wife? Did you discuss this decision with your wife? And then what about your taxes? Because you didn't mention anything about the tax favorability of Social Security. And that is one of the big reasons for waiting along with the protection of the spouse. So then I looked a little further into this guy because, like I said, I stalked him a little bit. That's what we do these days online. We have the ability to look people up. And it come to find out, he said that this is straight from Broker Check. He was licensed for 2 years. So here's what this tells me. Either it's just hard. And I can tell you from experience in starting a business, the first couple of years is rough. Anytime you start a business is rough. Most insurance agents and financial advisors, and I'm not saying this guy failed out of it, but most will fail out in the first 2 years because it's really, really hard. It's very, very hard. So anyway, be careful. All of that to say, real talk here on the Rite Retirement Show. Just be careful where you're getting your financial content, because this guy, I mean, when I'm listening to him, it's like I'm a former portfolio manager and financial advisor, and I'm like, for 2 years, you were.
Right.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
You don't have any credentials, and today you don't have any license, but yet you're walking around the forest spitting, financial advice to the trees and filming it and then putting it on social media. And yeah, you're not really charging for the advice, but when your videos get a lot of views, then you end up picking up some sponsors. So technically, indirectly, you are making some revenue. So anyway, just be careful. Make sure you're getting your information from credible people.
It kind of reminds me of a story that one of a federal benefits expert that we've worked with told one time. And I think it's just a good kind of cautionary tale, cautionary reminder that, they were talking about how and hey, maybe this is our Fed minute for today too, I guess, that they had someone they knew who was a federal employee. And when I think it was Enron crash happened initially, one of their buddies at the water cooler told them like, hey, it's going to bounce back. The government's going to bail them back, like bail them out. You should put a bunch of money into it.
Oh, I remember this.
And they did that. And the government didn't bail them out. Company goes bankrupt and they lost all of that money. And like, what recourse do you have for that? Absolutely none. If just your buddy who is, unlicensed, not a professional, tells you to do something and you do it and it doesn't work, you have no recourse on that. You just took bad advice and that's on you. And the same thing goes with, financial content online and all else. If you're mostly listening to people who are unlicensed, then there's just very different sets of rules on what they can and can't say, and what rights you have. So it's always risky, and obviously you feel terrible. A lot of people are listening and probably like, well, why would they ever do that? And it's like sometimes you would be surprised. Sometimes you take advice from the wrong person, and you would be surprised.
Yeah, and then you've got this thing in your brain. I don't know what it is with some people, but they get so locked in on certain things and they just believe it's true based on who's told them or research they're following. I've had a client tell me a while back that the market's going to crash because of the lunar cycle or something like that. You remember me sharing that with you a few years ago?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I was sent an article, and this person said, hey, this person says online that the market tends to crash with this type of lunar cycle, and of course it didn't happen. And so you just be really, really careful out there. Make sure you're talking with and working with level-headed people that do this for a living, have the credentials, and then putting your interests first.
Yeah, for sure. Putting your interests first, for sure. And that's what you guys do. Okay. You and Graham, your entire team at WG Financial Group work with retirees, and you make sure that you help people come up with a plan. Okay. And covering, everything from their goals to, just what their finances are, and you strategize and make a plan for them, their unique situation. I mean, it all comes down to different investments, tax strategies. You guys, talk about healthcare and then even legacy planning. So I love that. You do individualized plans, don't you?
Yeah, it's our process, RITE. I mean, it covers it all. Covers the basic 4 strong pillars that we feel like every family needs to address. And if you go through our process, you'll know it. I mean, it's just different than what we, the feedback we received is just different than what a lot of financial advisors do.
Okay. And that's what we want for you. I'm going to give out the phone number just because I can. Right now, you may call or text the word visit to this number and go in and see them. Get a discovery session, complimentary, 256-937-2010, and you can get on your way to having that plan. So, okay, guys, I want to go to a part. Before
we jump into that, Lou, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry.
No, you didn't know. I was just thinking as we were talking through this.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people I personally sat down with last year, but I'm going to say a couple hundred probably families, throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And Huntsville is home to some of the smartest individuals and families in the entire nation.
Incredible.
I think it's first or second per capita with PhDs in the area. So there's a lot of smart people here. And the reason I bring this up is I can't recall, this is a God's honest truth, I can't recall one meeting where a family walked in and they're literally doing every single thing correctly, according to our report card that we use.
Yeah.
So in other words, they came in and everything's green. It's almost never happens. I'm not going to tell you it never happens because I can't compliantly say that, but I can tell you last year I cannot remember one single person that came in the office and had everything in order, doing exactly what they should be doing. Even with all the availability of information online, there's still families that come in and they're saving well. I don't want to say they're not, but there's inefficiencies in how they're doing things. And I think that's what our report card picks up. When somebody goes through our process, we can identify some areas of inefficiency. And usually that's why people are going to end up working with us, is because we're going to help navigate through this thing called retirement that they've never really done before. So I just kind of wanted to say that with all the people that I sat with last year, I didn't have not one family come through and it was all pristine, perfect.
I love that. Thank you for showing that. I love that. And you said you met with 100 people, and then Graham, he's meeting with people, and your other two advisors as well. So you guys help a lot of people throughout the year, don't you?
Yeah, and I was just kind of speaking for just for myself and what I look at. And here's the deal. This is what I always tell people this in the meeting. If you're doing things really well, I'm going to tell you that. If we can help you, we're going to tell you that too. But I still have yet, in recent memory, seen a family doing everything perfectly.
Yeah, and some people are doing more than others and prioritize financial literacy and think a little bit more about it than some people do. But even in those cases, you're right. It's very rare, if not almost never or never, that you see somebody who comes in and it's like, oh, hey, there's nothing that you could improve on. You're doing it. It's the similar thing where even if you were, if you went to a personal trainer, even if you were somebody who eats pretty good and, tracks what you eat a little bit and works out a couple times a week, I highly doubt that you would go and they would say, there's nothing you could improve on at all. Or same with a doctor. You go to a doctor, there's nothing you could improve on. You're doing everything perfectly, even if you do prioritize some things. So it's always good to, kind of get a second opinion and see what those things are that you might be missing, even if you are doing a lot of things well.
Yeah. Oftentimes there's several things missing. I would say on our report card, on average, there's probably anywhere from, I'm just kind of thinking through this, probably 4 to 6 items that we're able to kind of correct either in the retirement income area or the investments or the tax efficient strategies or the estate and legacy area. There's usually 4 to 6 of those that are usually off.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. All good stuff. Well, if you think about it, many people approach retirement kind of the same way. They have things like 401ks, IRAs, okay? But then like you're saying, no actual strategy, okay? That's what they have. They have those kind of, retirement tools. And if you compare that to some master carpenter showing up on site and they have all their tools there that they need to build a house, let's say, but there's no blueprint, well, those tools are useless, right? How are they going to actually build that house without a plan? So this analogy kind of goes with retirement as well. So, Cris, take us through the fundamental difference between having this portfolio of financial products and a true retirement plan.
So this does remind me of, it seems like I've said this 2 weeks in a row now, but these types of things have happened in the past few days. So I did literally sit down with someone yesterday. Actually, we would call it a repeat meeting. So this person's been in before and they finally decided, hey, I think I do need some help. And of course, he brought his updated spreadsheet and stuff is everywhere, everywhere. So talking about having a portfolio of financial products and having a true retirement plan, this particular spreadsheet that I looked at was what I would call a portfolio of financial products. It was actually spread across 3 different custodians as well. So oftentimes, now this person didn't say this, but oftentimes we hear, I'm diversified. You've heard that before, Graham, right?
Yeah,
That's like
have.
pretty common. I'm diversified. I want to see how this advisor does versus this advisor. Meanwhile, the portfolios are constructed totally different. You can't really compare the two because it's like apples and oranges. But anyway, so having a portfolio of financial products or accounts or spread across multiple different custodians versus having a true retirement plan where all of the investments and products are working in concert with one another. And there's usually an end goal in mind. So your plan is built, for investment efficiency, tax efficiency, retirement income efficiency, and then also estate and legacy efficiency to make sure that when you're gone, really also while you're here, but while you're here and then when you're gone, everything passes on to your heirs in the way that you want it to. And so basically what I saw yesterday was a spreadsheet of stuff, and there was really no rhythm or, things working in concert with this particular individual's financial plan. So that's the basic difference, is just really having things working together towards, a couple of common goals there at the end of retirement.
Mm-hmm. So is it true, that the tools we use during our working years, I think some people could call it the shovel, right? We're just shoveling our savings into the account. Those are not the same tools that we need in retirement?
They're most of the time not going to be the same tools that you need, at least not on the same level. But the feeling for a lot of people, or maybe the habit is a better word, is to continue using those same tools. If you've been using the shovel all your life, even though you've stopped working, it's probably hard for you to want to put the shovel down and say, okay, it's time to stop doing that. I've heard a few times before, and recently even, clients say, hey, I'm thinking about, my savings is maybe getting a little bit lower than I'd like. I'm thinking about maybe taking like $500 a month out of my, investment account, putting it back in my savings account. And the question becomes a lot of times in that case, why exactly are you doing that? Because you're retired, whether you have money in your IRA, your Roth IRA, your brokerage account, your bank account, they're all liquid. There's different tax consequences for getting to them. But if you're over 59 and a half, you're retired, you can get to any of them. But it's just that feeling of, I want to be saving money, or that goes in conjunction with the feeling of, maybe not wanting to touch the accounts when they're doing well or when they're down a little bit. In the past few months, especially, I've been having a lot of conversations with people about, your accounts are doing well because the market's doing well over the last couple of years. This is actually a good time to spend money. You might think, oh, the money's doing well, I shouldn't touch it. I should just let it grow. And if you truly don't need it at all for anything, maybe that is the best thing to do. But when you get to a certain point in life, it's like, hey, if there are things you want to be doing, you can't take it with you. Your accounts are doing well, maybe take a little bit off the top and don't just keep piling up everything with that shovel. So I do think that the tools change a lot when you retire, even just in the way that you invest, some of the tools there. So, but it's a hard transition to make because you do one thing all of your life. And I can say even, at this point in my life, and I got a long ways away till retirement.
Long ways.
Yeah. But even now, the thought of my accounts going down, just even with market movement, nobody likes to see that. You're kind of just taught that you should always be growing, no matter what. And for a time in life, that is mostly true. But at a certain point, you do kind of have to shift your thinking a little bit. So it's just that early part of retirement transition, getting into that rhythm, it can be a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, you talked about the shovel, and you made a kind of a little story there about people wanting to take money out of the IRA 401k to replenish the savings that's fallen down, just to put it in savings because it makes them feel good. And so I think when you're in retirement, I think one of the things that you should remember is that your IRA is also your savings. It's just in tax deferral. So technically, if you need it, it's there, it's liquid, you cash it in, pay the tax. And then your savings, of course, is your savings, and it's sitting there as well. So if someone took out, just say $6,000 this year, Graham, to replace their savings if they wanted to, and I just used 6,000 as a number, and while you were talking, I did some math on it. If they took $6,000 out and they're in the 22% tax bracket, they're going to pay a comfort fee of $1,320 in federal tax. And when I say comfort fee, what I mean by that is you're going to pay the IRS $1,320 in federal income tax to give you the comfort feeling of taking it from your IRA and putting it into your savings account, just so you can feel better. So kind of what I think some people should probably ask themselves is, all right, do I like the IRS that much to give them $1,320 just so I can feel better because now my savings balance is up?
Yeah.
When in reality, the IRA is also savings as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to kind of throw a number on that. Now, you obviously take that and say it's $12,000. Well, now you're $2,640 in federal income tax as a comfort fee is what we'll call it. Now, of course, when I say comfort fee, I'm talking about federal income tax, just to be clear, because compliance will probably say something to me about that. But you understand the analogy there. Your IRA is still a savings account as well. And you just have to train yourself to think about it that way, because we're so wired, like Graham was saying, you said, with the shovel, to just push money and shovel money in there. So just be careful of that and make sure you're making good, conscious decisions.
Well, and the other thing too, if you do that, and maybe you touched on this, I don't think you did this time around, but we have before, is if you take out that $6,000 or $12,000, you pay the taxes on the front end, but now it sits in your bank, and when the interest accrues on that, you pay taxes on that interest in that year as well. So, I had a conversation with someone recently where we were emailing back and forth, and I was recommending they, fund their Roths out of some cash. And I said something to the effect of, it's a tax savings on the front end and the back end. And he kind of thought he was correcting me, being like, no, there's no tax savings on the front end because it's a Roth and it goes in post-tax. And it's like, okay, well, I think I know what I'm talking about here. What I mean, and I explained it in the first email, but re-explained it, is that you have a bunch of money sitting in your savings. You move $30,000 out between you and your spouse, and you save 4% interest on that moving into your Roth. It is a tax savings today because it's not money sitting in your bank accruing interest hitting your tax return. It's in a tax deferred, or in this case tax free. But the same thing goes with an IRA. If you need to get to it, you can. The taxes aren't going to be different whether you pull it out today or tomorrow, unless you have some major income between that time period come in. But you're not getting taxed on that interest year over year. So it's just, and the one other thing I'll clarify here is, like, if somebody was down to like $500 cash in their bank and they just needed some money to like pay the monthly bills, that's a totally acceptable
different conversation.
Yeah, that's a totally acceptable use case to pull some money out. I'm talking about what we see more often, which is somebody has $50,000 or $100,000 or $150,000 sitting in their bank, and they want it to be 160 or 110 or 55.
Even 20.
Even 20. Yeah,
if it's
20.
even 20 and you just want to get it to 30, okay. Is it worth it? You decide. You're going to pay the federal income tax and state in some cases as well. So,
all right, let's continue with kind of this whole construction process. Okay, you had a construction worker show up with all these different tools. Okay, how can you guys help clients organize their assets so that they're not using a hammer when they're really supposed to be using a saw?
Yeah, so I'll give you one example. Again, saw it on a spreadsheet. So we've got a tool. We've got a couple tools, and we're going to use mutual funds and ETFs as tools here. So this particular individual had a basket full of mutual funds, and they were complaining about capital gains taxes. So when you have mutual funds in a non-qualified account, oftentimes they can generate something that we call phantom gains. So those of you who are out there listening to the show today may have non-qualified accounts where a couple of years ago, back in 2024, the markets were up really high. You didn't sell anything, but all of a sudden at the end of January, a 1099 shows up saying that you owe some capital gains taxes. That is what we call phantom gains. You didn't do anything, but essentially the mutual fund manager of that mutual fund went in and sold positions inside of that mutual fund, and you got hit with the capital gains of it. So that's a tool. Again, a mutual fund is a tool, but a better tool to use in that case would be individual stocks or ETFs, because those are only going to generate capital gains on any dividends that are paid in the year of. And then you will not have that situation where stocks or bonds are being sold inside of that mutual fund, generating capital gains. So that would be one area that if I'm working with a family, we're going to take a look at that and go, okay, what can we do to really, better the tax situation in the future so you don't have this, this type of situation happen again. So that would be one thing that we would do, is start organizing assets, start looking at the best ones to generate income from. Should we give some of them away? Should we, do some downstream gifting? And that would be kind of a good place to start, Luann, just kind of look at what a family has. And then from there, we can start to build out, more of a liquidity bucket. So if they're early on in retirement, we've talked about the bucket strategy before on the show. We'll probably touch on it on this show as well. Start figuring out, where's that short-term money going to come from, and how do we build that out? Do we need to, build an income bucket? And then, of course, build out a growth bucket on the backside that is just built for growth. It's money that we're probably not going to need. It's probably going to pass on to our heirs. So let's figure out the best tools for that, and let's set that up. But that's kind of the way we do it, Lou. And it's kind of hard to say exactly, but that's kind of a high level view of it in a sense. Everybody's a little bit different when it comes to these. All retirements they smell the same. Let's put it that way. Everybody wants to retire. They want to generate income. They don't want to run out of money. They want to do it tax efficiently, and they want to enjoy their retirement. So all of that sounds the same, but everybody has these different tools in there. Yeah. We're fans of some, not fans of all. And really, you want all the tools working in concert with one another.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you said, creating a comprehensive retirement income strategy is what you have to have, and it requires specialized knowledge and tools. And we get that knowledge, hopefully from guys like you, because sometimes we can't, get it all on our own.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I was, so this one gentleman that came in, it was really funny. He says, this is what he told me, and I'm laughing because it was funny to me. He said, I don't really need you right now. He said, but I think I'm probably going to need you when I die, because my wife doesn't know what to do.
Oh.
And so we went through the meeting, and I said, this is about 30 minutes into the meeting.
Yeah.
I kind of looked over at him, and I took that spreadsheet and I turned it to the side, and I kind of circled some things. And I said, I mean this respectfully, but you do need me today. You just don't know you need me today, because here's some things where we are inefficiently doing today. And this is how we can help you correct these things. See? And he just looked at me and grinned. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
No.
Right. And that's kind of very cliche sounding, but it's so true.
True.
It really is. And we've said it before, like income covers up sin. Sometimes your savings and how much you've saved covers up sin. There's inefficiencies that are happening, but you've done such a great job at saving. Is it going to cause you to run out of money? No. Is it going to cause you to pay more in federal income tax potentially? Maybe. So it's usually down to inefficiency, and sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And I think that's where, when somebody comes into the office, we're so thorough and so in depth with what we do, it kind of brings some of that to light. And we don't do it in a disparaging way or anything like that. We're not judgmental. We're there to show you, hey, this is what we can do. This is what you're doing inefficiently, and this is how we can kind of course correct on these things. So if you're catching the show on the way to church, because I just looked down and we're out of time for the first segment. If you're catching it on the way to church, you can hop out to Apple Podcast or Spotify, those platforms. You can catch the whole episode, 1 hour. You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show. Give us a call, 256-937-2010. Again, the number's 256-937-2010. Give us a call for your discovery session.
When headlines sound dramatic and markets appear restless, having a plan in place matters. Joining forces with Cris Wallace could offer fresh perspectives on how to adapt your approach while staying focused on long-term goals. Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Explore how steady guidance makes a difference.
Are you a federal employee feeling pressure from the early retirement offers like VERA, VSIP, or the Deferred Resignation Program? Recent government initiatives have introduced significant changes to federal retirement programs, making employees feel pressured to consider early retirement or face potential layoffs. At WG Financial Group, we help guide federal employees through these uncertain times. Our team understands the complex federal retirement systems and can help you make informed decisions. Call 256-937-2010 to schedule your complimentary discovery session with us today. We'll help you assess your options and create a personalized retirement plan to help you feel more confident. Visit WGFinancialGroup.com or call 256-937-2010 to book your session. Firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Planning for retirement often sparks big questions, like how to make your savings last or what steps you should take next. Instead of stressing, why not get clear direction with a personalized meeting? Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Connect with Cris Wallace and discover the next chapter of your financial story.
We're so happy to have you along with us today. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Cris Wallace and Graham Bauer. Cris is president of WG Financial Group. Cris and Graham are both certified financial planners, financial advisors at the firm. Graham is also an enrolled agent. So they would love to meet with you. There's plenty of other advisors too at the firm. There's 4 total. They have a full staff. They are in an independent firm. I want to make sure you know that. And they would love to guide you. And this discovery session is complimentary. I do want to say that. And find us online at WGFinancialGroup.com. So today we've been discussing how to turn a mix of financial tools into a fortress of security. But, even the best built houses are going to, face threats from, all the elements in real life. It'd be the storms and the hail and all of that. But with our retirement, it would be like inflation and taxes. So I think you could call inflation the silent demolition crew, okay? How does a static retirement fail when it's faced with the rising cost of living, guys?
I tell you what, you can probably help answer that. I think we all can. I mean, just look at the past, I don't know, what is it now, 4 years since inflation really started to take off. 22 is when it started.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just sit there and think about how expensive things are. And we all have jobs today.
Yeah.
And
thankfully.
Yes. And hopefully we're all getting increases on an annual basis.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I go to the grocery store now, if it's like 4 items, it's $30 to $40 easy. Or if I go out to eat, I went out to eat with my daughter the other night. Her and I went to grab some, we like this little place in town that has chicken fried rice. And so
yum.
we grabbed 2 little orders of fried rice and chicken, and it was $30.
Yep, it is. For 2, usually 30.
So yeah, just divide that by 2. Obviously,
that's
it's 2 people.
No appetizers, no drinks.
Right.
Just,
No
Yeah,
drink.
that's straight chicken fried rice.
Yeah.
Now, it was good. It was, in my mind at the time I was shoveling it in my mouth using that tool, that spoon as a shovel.
You would have paid double.
I would have paid double. You're right. It was so good. But when you look at the sheer cost of things, man, it's just expensive. So just think about if you're a retiree, and we know Social Security gets a COLA adjustment, and we talk about this a lot on the show, but it really doesn't keep up with the rising cost of everything. It supposedly gets a COLA adjustment for the rising cost of a basket of goods, but healthcare is going up. And then if you have a pension, non-military, non-federal, it's very likely you don't have a COLA on that. So that money's just getting eaten alive by inflation, especially with what's happened here. I mean, I kind of feel bad for the retiree that retired at the end of 2021, because what they saw in 2022 was a downward market of about 20%. And then they saw this rising cost of inflation. And we all know, because we've said it on the show a million times, rising inflation, those prices don't come back down. And I continue to see that on the news, and it just makes me so mad. It's like, when is the president going to drop prices? I'm like, he's not.
How can
And
he?
neither's the other party either, because once
Yeah.
prices go up, they don't generally come down back to where they used to be.
Right.
They might come down a little bit, but not, we talk about the $5 hamburger and the $12 hamburger. It's not going back to $5. Get used to
Never.
it. It's just
Never.
not. So anyway, when those people that retired at the end of 2021 saw a 20% drop in the stock market, and then their retirement just automatically went right out of the gates, got more expensive. and permanently got more expensive. And so I do feel sorry for those individuals because they were probably going into retirement. We were coming off the zero interest rate policy, interest rates on zero, inflation kind of, somewhat in check. I mean, things do go up, don't get me wrong, but and then all of a sudden 2022, 23, things really took off. And it's like, man, maybe I shouldn't have retired. It's probably a nerve-wracking time for them.
Yeah. I mean, when we're building out plans and we're showing people different retirement scenarios, some of the simulations we run are, similar to that, is to say, hey, if there's a more high stress time as far as, financially or economically high stress time, can your plan still sustain that? And I think, for some people, the thought might be on that, oh, well, that's kind of unrealistic. How would all of these things, go wrong at the same time? But, years like a couple of years ago, I think just kind of show you they definitely can. I mean, most of the time they're not, and you'll be fine. But again, I think most people don't want to plan on what happens most of the time, because what happens most of the time doesn't happen all of the time. And, for me, when I'm planning anything in my life, I tend to try to build in a little bit of buffer to say, hey, I don't want to plan for this to be the best case scenario. Right. You want to say, because if the worst case scenario still works, then the best case scenario works. So why even, look at the best case scenario in that at that time. So,
right.
But, you've seen that multiple times in the last 10 years, 15 years, where you've had either a big market drop, a high inflation period. And it probably doesn't mean that all those retirees are running out of money completely and they're all, on welfare, living on the streets. But if they hadn't planned for that, there can be a lot of long-term effects to, not being prepared for those types of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when we're doing the plans, Graham, just leaning them more towards the worst case side. So we never tell somebody we're building the worst case scenario plan because we don't know what the worst case scenario is. I mean, I guess, the world could blow up and that gets us all. That would be the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I can retire if the world's about to blow up.
Yeah, we're all
get myself through the next couple weeks.
We're all on that same ship together. But I do know that we do lean it harder towards the underperforming side is probably the right way to say it. Right, because if your plan is working while it's underperforming, as the gauge as underperforming, then like you said, then the best case scenario, we're all good. You sleep, I sleep better, you sleep better, everybody wins. So
okay, so let's talk about how you guys help clients optimize the Social Security benefit, and of course in looking at their entire picture.
Yeah. So it's funny that this question's in there. Actually, I didn't know this question was in there. Yeah. So when I did the real talk earlier and I was talking about the Social Security, that particular, what'd you call him, Graham? Finfluencer?
Yeah, that's the term floating around there.
Okay. Yeah. Which I never heard before. I thought that was kind of funny, kind of cool, actually.
Is it a V? Are you saying a V?
Fin. F-I-N.
Like finance.
Like finance.
F-I-N. Okay, Fin. Yeah. Gotcha.
Finfluencer, yeah. So anyway, so this guy was talking about, I'm taking at 62 and this is why I'm doing it and I've done the math. Well, Social Security is a much larger decision than just the math. So that's generally where we start. So I have a client. Well, let's say I don't know that I can say I have a client. I have seen situations, let's say it that way, where maybe the husband is like myself, 5 years older than Jen. So if that person is say the husband is 60, 5 years older, when he gets to 67 and we're targeting him collecting at 67, then in our opinion, there's not a lot of reason for the wife to go ahead and continue deferring at that point either. Okay. She's already the lower amount, assuming she's the lower amount in this particular example. Okay. Then it would be okay just to go ahead and collect at 62, because I feel like if she were to wait till 67, then we've left 5 years on the table for her. So at that point, there is some math involved there. But I also know if the husband's trying to get to 67, then now I know that we've secured that death benefit one, meaning the higher Social Security that's left behind. Now we've secured that. And if the wife is low enough earning, there may be some additional spousal she can go ahead and pick up by claiming at 62. So our process does, we do run people and families through certain scenarios to make sure that we're making the optimum decision for Social Security. So that's one of the big things we look at under the retirement income section is what do we do with Social Security? What's the best way to, claim benefit? And, truth be told, if you take a look mathematically, then it's pretty simple in terms of just wait till 70. That's, what's the best way to maximize Social Security? Well, wait till 70. But that's not always what we see families doing, nor not always what they want to do. Now, it has become, Graham, you probably have seen this lately, a little more common for the higher income earner to come in. And as long as there's not a big age gap there, depending on how low the low income earner is, there's more and more people that do want to wait until 70. Now, that's not something that we push people to. Most of the time I'll have, and it's been husbands as of late, I'm going to try to wait till 70. And so one of the recent ones that I've worked with, he said he wanted to wait till 70, and they had this situation that I'm describing here where there's a pretty good little age gap there, and the spouse has the lower, income. He was under the impression, and I'm sure you've seen and heard this before, Graham, that when he got to 70, she got half of his 70 amount, and that's not the case. It's half of the full retirement amount, as we know. Okay. So once I explained that rule to him and said, hey, if you wait till 70, that's fine. Your wife can go ahead and collect, but she can't get any of that spousal until you file. And if you wait till 70, that's 3 additional years of her not getting that additional spousal. And then that's when I brought up, are you thinking that she gets half of your 70 amount? He said, yes. I said, no, it's only 67.
Right.
So in this case, we looked at the math and numbers on it. We protected the spouse, got them a lot of income, and they were surprised at, the answers that I was able to provide to them. But it's a big deal to make sure that we're taking into account all sources of guaranteed income and really optimizing them to the best of our ability. And I'll say one other thing too, since we're on the retirement income. This is not really in our notes. I've seen situations where there are big defense contractors out here that have pensions, and those pensions offer lump sums. Kind of looking at Graham as I'm talking here, a lot of times it's better to take the pension because of the cash flow rate out of the pension versus taking the lump sum. There's a couple reasons why I think this is important. One, if you have a pension, you're not going to have to pay any taxes on it in the state of Alabama, no state tax. You'll pay federal, but no state, because any money coming from a defined benefit plan, i.e. a pension, you're not going to have Alabama state tax on. So now you don't have state tax on your Social Security. You don't have state taxes on your pension. But advisors are paid, if they're managing money, they're paid on managing money. So I've seen situations and work with people where they've been to see others and the other advisor said, take the lump sum, we can make you more than the pension. And that may be true, maybe. When I say maybe, you just don't know what the returns are going to be in the next 10 to 15, 20 years to know if that's really going to hold true. Well, most of us are only going to get a chance to do retirement one time, and you want to make it right. And so I am a big proponent of taking guarantees in retirement. So if I know I've got a pension that's going to pay X, and if I die, it's going to leave my wife 100% of that, that's the route I'm going. And I don't get paid for that. I literally don't get paid for that. Moving the lump sum of $800 or $900 or $1 million would come over to our asset management, and then we would get paid on it. But I don't feel like that's the right decision for the client, because I'm taking away the guarantee of a pension. Once the money rolls over into an IRA, because that's where it would go, then you're subject to state tax on withdrawal at that point. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there too under the retirement income section, Luann, because I felt like it was kind of relevant to the questions there.
It's definitely important. And I mean, just like a practical example for people listening, if you had a pension that, for example, was cash flowing 8%, so they'd pay you a $100,000 lump sum, or you get $8,000 a year. Well, I mean, maybe over the long term, if you're aggressive with your money, you could invest that $100,000, make more than 8%, and still pull some off the top. But for most retirees, I mean, when people throw out the 8 to 10% market return numbers, they're not talking about a 50-50 portfolio. They're talking about like being 100% in the S&P 500, mm-hmm. And they're talking about 20 to 30 to 40 to 100 year averages. So at the end of the day, I mean, if you're a fairly conservative person, it also depends on who you are. Like if you know that you're a conservative individual and you're basically saying, all right, they're going to cash flow a high percentage for my whole life. Do I really think I can go invest that and beat that over the long term and still pull that kind of income off the top? Or, do I just take the guarantees? Similar to the conversation around Social Security with, if you don't need it and you're between 67 and 70, let's say you're still working and you're 68, why take it? It's growing by 8% a year. Sure, you could take the money and invest it, but you got to beat 8% per year plus, COLA too.
Right.
So again, I think for most people in retirement, if you got a high cash flow rate, a high guarantee, you're going to want to take that over the unknown, and when you have these couple of years like we've had where market returns are really good, I think people start to get this feeling again that like the market is just linear and it's just like
recency bias.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're just going to do 10 to 20% a year forever. And it's like, no, this is rare historically that we get double-digit returns 3 years in a row. Not saying that's not going to happen again because you don't know, but it's not a guarantee.
Right.
It's not a guarantee. So
I think in retirement, you have to lean towards things that make you feel better. So let's just play that scenario out a little further. You leave it in the pension and you take the pension payment and then you get a monthly deposit from the company. What does that feel like? It feels like a paycheck. And retirement, a lot of retirement is about feeling, the psychological aspect. So if you've got some guaranteed income coming in from Social Security, from a pension, it just feels better versus if you took that, you rolled it over. We already talked about the taxes on the withdrawal, but now you got to worry about the ups and downs of it. And with the 4% rule, if you're going to use that, then you've got to be dynamic because if the account drops, you got to be willing to take less than that. So there's a lot of psychology, to it as well, and how you feel about money and retirement.
Tell us how the 2025 tax law affects the Social Security benefits.
Well, I mean, Social Security is taxable. I mean, that's or it can be subject to tax. So we've talked about on the show a number of times that if Social Security is your sole source of income, say you got 80 grand coming in Social Security between a husband and wife, which is not uncommon these days. We've seen a lot of families with, $70,000, $80,000 in total Social Security income. If that's the sole source of income, there is no federal tax, there is no state tax. So that's one thing. That's, again, one of the reasons why we like to say, hey, let's defer this, because the larger that amount is, the more of your necessary living expenses it covers and the more tax efficient it is. Now, when you start stacking other sources of income on top of the Social Security on your tax return, then benefits can be subject to up to 85% maximum tax. So 85% of them can be taxed. And that's where we like to say 15% is basically free from federal tax. So it's 15% of income, and 15% of a smaller Social Security amount is less in dollars than a larger Social Security amount, where 15% is calculated there. So, and I think when families first retire that haven't really kind of looked into the whole retirement aspect, they assume that Social Security is just not taxable. And when the current administration was running for office, you remember on the campaign trail, they kept saying, well, we're going to no tax on Social Security. Yeah. And we had a lot of clients come in the office at that point in time during the campaign trail. Do you think Trump's going to be able to get rid of Social Security tax? And we're like, no, he's not. Mm-hmm, no. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't. But then what happened was at age 65, when you turn 65, you get that extra senior deduction that's available. And that was nice. That was kind of like the makeup of, hey, I told you I was going to get rid of tax on Social Security. Well, I didn't really do that. I said it, but we didn't do it. So we're going to throw this extra bonus deduction there for seniors, $6,000 per person at age 65. And the cool thing about this extra bonus deduction is you don't have to be taking Social Security to take it. You just got to be age 65 to take it.
That's good. But it expires soon.
It does.
Yeah.
2028, I think. Yeah, 2028. So you get it for a couple of years. But I mean, it's a good incentive for people to use it. And I mean, if you're a married couple, I mean, that's another $12,000 potentially between the two of you in a deduction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not no tax on Social Security. It's maybe more of a temporary less tax on Social Security, but potentially none, depending on your other income sources. But it's a good reminder, too, to just, in the next couple of years, we're really big proponents of the idea of using up low tax rates if you have the ability to. So, I mean, if you're low in the 12% or middle of the 12% tax bracket, I think the gut reaction is to just say, oh boy, lucky me. I don't have to pay very much in taxes this year, where what we would say most of the time is, hey, why don't you take advantage of that and maybe pay a little bit more taxes this year, but in this lower bracket.
Yeah.
And this new tax bill is just kind of another added addition to that of, not just saying, hey, my taxable income was $50,000 last year because I got a bunch of Social Security and just took a little out of IRAs. That's awesome. Now it's going to be $38,000 this year. I would say, hey, maybe think about jacking that up, maybe doing some conversions. If you have capital gains, you need to diversify out of. There's a lot of different things that could mean, but not just saying, I want to pay the absolute lowest amount of taxes today, but to use the opportunity of those deductions to say, how do I pay less taxes over the next 15 years or 20 years or 30 years? Because that deduction is not going to be around for the next 20 years or 30 years. You got 2 at this point.
The other thing too, I'll just point out again, there was I think what I'll do is I'll post it on our Facebook page is what I'll do. And it was about inflation throughout history. And it's got a little graph and it shows some things that really, really inflated a lot over the past like 20 years. And about 90% of them are things that the government touches, like healthcare, college tuition. So I guess the message here, not to again, get too political, but anytime the government gets involved and does handouts where it's supposedly free, it's guaranteed inflation in the future.
Wow.
And I probably, compliance is going to say, don't say guaranteed. Okay, compliance, I won't say guaranteed. There's a high likelihood that there will be inflation on that item because just look at college tuition. When they made college loans so easy to obtain, the universities were like, hey, they got more money. They got access to more money via loans. And guess what? Tuition's going up. Cost of books is going up.
So high.
So I'll post that graphic on our Facebook page there. I think our friends at AE Wealth Management sent that graphic to us, and I'll post it out there so you can see it and you just make your own judgment. But, anything seems like the government touches in terms of handouts or subsidies in the future inflates like crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So, that one big, beautiful bill is pretty complex, and so it can be difficult to know if you're actually on the right track, if you are optimized regarding your taxes. Talk about how you help your clients evaluate their tax strategy currently.
Report card. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Like you come in the office, we conduct our discovery session. We go through your situation with a fine-tooth comb. And we talk about tax efficiency is one of the big areas. And we talked about the red on the report card and, usually around 4 to 6 items. The majority of them will end up being in the tax and the estate planning area is where we see the biggest deficiency. We take a look at Social Security. We talk about Medicare, IRMA limits, what you got to watch out for, any potential tax advantages that you have access to. If you're charitable, there's things you can do there. We talk about that, put it in the report card, and really put a plan together to start taking advantage of all those. And then talk about your retirement income. Do we have that maximized? Are we doing all the right things we can there? And then just, additional things like tax loss harvesting we may take a look at as well. There's just so many things that we look at through the process. But that is, how we do it. We look at it on that report card.
So obviously, there's going to be new law changes with different administrations, life changes personally, and the economy changes and everything. So you guys do an annual review of your process, right? Retirement process for long-term goals, correct? Very critical.
We do. Yeah, we do. We do what we call like one major review of per year. A lot of times we'll ask the client if they want a secondary review, just come in if they got questions. Because a lot of times there's things that happen and they're like, oh my goodness, I wonder how that impacts us. And so we just kind of say, hey, if you need to come in again, let us know. I always make a joke and say, we don't look at the calendar and go, they were just in, 4 months ago. They got to wait till January 1, 2027 to get their next review. No, you just call and it'll get put on the calendar. But yeah, we do, let's say 1 to 2 reviews a year. But if somebody needs an extra one, that's fine. If it makes them feel better and sleep better, that's fine. We don't mind doing that. Plenty of team members to help take care of them. So, in reviewing that retirement plan, we are updating Social Security, taking a look at the Monte Carlo, updating the report card, just making sure that the plan is still intact. And honestly, we don't really take on what I would say a failing client. If a client needs to work longer, or like our numbers say that it's not going to work, we can't take them at that point. So oftentimes when we're doing the reviews, and the reason I'm bringing this up is oftentimes when we're doing the reviews, everything still looks great, because remember our conversation about 15 minutes ago is we don't run the plan at the worst case scenario, but we often lean it towards a more underperforming scenario. So when we're doing those updates, like for example, we run cost of living pretty low on Social Security. We run it below the average. So oftentimes we're actually raising that figure up in the retirement plan because we've underestimated on purpose. And, somebody got an 8% COLA or a 6% COLA. So we raise that up, and it just makes the plan look a little bit longer. But we do all of that in the review process, Luann.
Okay. And I think real quick, the really important thing about reviews to me is that we go through a lot of information, but the most important thing is that you take action on information, because if we just tell you things all day and you don't do any of it, then it was a waste of time for both of us. So I think a big thing is just making sure, hey, we'll give you the information, but we also need to be accountable, or you need to be accountable that you're taking action.
It's a good point. Some of it we are obviously able to do, but then there are things that we're not able to do because, like, for example, if there's some legal document stuff going on. So again, let's bring this situation up that I sat down with a returning prospect that came in, the spreadsheet, and I had my old notes from our first meeting. So I brought the old notes with me in the first meeting, or in this meeting, so that I could just double check on some things. And I kid you not, everything that I said in the first meeting to go do, now, not a client, right? Came in for a prospect meeting, did not become a client, but there were several bullet points of things that I said, this would be a good idea to look at. Go speak to an attorney. You should probably look at this for your kids, that sort of thing. None of that had been done. None of that. So we see that often. A lot of times somebody will come in as a prospect. They'll want to sit down and say, oh, Chris, I want to sit down with your team. We've been listening to you guys on the radio for 6 years. And they come in and they then, for whatever reason, decide not to work with us. That's become much more rare nowadays, but that still does exist. And the reason is, I don't want to pay a fee, or whatever the reason is, because that's a lot of times that's the reason. I don't want to pay somebody to do that. Well, in this particular case, and this is not the only time I've seen it, somebody comes back in as a revisit prospect, and they haven't done any of the things we said to do in the first meeting. So I'm going, you don't want to quote unquote work with somebody or quote unquote pay somebody. We've told you some things to do and you still don't do them. So probably ought to link up with somebody, whether it's us or somebody else. So anyway, Luann, that is all the time we have for the show. So it's been a good show so far.
Been a great show. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for the notes, and always enjoy it. Hope everybody has enjoyed it as well. If you'd like to call and set up a discovery session, you can do that by calling 256-937-2010. 256-937-2010. Set up your discovery session. It is first, still early on in the year. There's still things we can do to save on some tax before the tax day. And we're early enough in the year now where we can take a look at doing some tax efficient strategy planning for the remainder of the year. So I would say if you're listening and you've been considering it, don't procrastinate. 256-937-2010. I hope everybody has an awesome and blessed week. And remember to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart.
Graham Bauer holds the enrolled agent designation, but is not currently offering tax preparation services. Neither the firm nor its agents may give tax advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business WG Insurance Services. WG Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by WG Insurance Services are not subject to investment advisory requirements. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. WG Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial. This radio show is a paid placement.